everyone, and welcome back to Liz Sews and the next video in Vlogmas 2020. Today's project log will be featuring this gray and green set right here. This set was inspired by Muriel on Instagram, and I'll make sure to pop her information down in the description box below. Sometimes when I get inspired by bras, it's either the design or the fabrics they've chosen or the pattern, or in this case, I got really inspired by the combination of colors. Muriel uses a lot of gray in her bras, and I really liked the combination of this chartreuse and gray in this set. She also has a very similar set using a turquoisey blue and gray, which I think I will definitely have to revisit in the future. So when looking for materials to make this bra, I searched for a really long time to find the perfect chartreuse lace. Unfortunately, when I found it, it was non-stretch. So that meant I had to make some alterations to my pattern, as you'll see later on in the video. The rest of the fabrics are hand dyed. I used Dharma Acid dye in the color Silver Gray. I've linked all of the fabrics and patterns used in the description box below if you're interested in recreating this set for yourself. And without further ado, let's get started on the green and gray set. So the bra I'm going to make exactly as the pattern is written. There's not going to be any like funny business going on. But for the underwear, I know that in the original set, she used the Claudia pants from Ululu. Now, I have not had much luck with commercial underwear patterns, just because my proportions are very much different than a typical body standard. So I'm going to use my self-drafted pattern. And I have a video up on my channel about how I drafted this pattern based on my measurements. So for my underwear, I know that like this main section here is going to be non-stretch lace because that's the lace that I have purchased. So what I've gone ahead and done is just my block without any reduction factor. So this is the block, and theoretically, if you measure it, the hips are going to be exactly my hip measurement and the waist will be exactly my waist measurement. So I haven't reduced my size at all to account for any stretch. And that's because the majority of the panty is going to be non-stretch fabric. So I have my back and my front done in that manner. Now it is a little bit shorter up in the top because I want to make this more hipster, like low-rise style. Obviously, these lines continued up further to meet where my actual waist would have been. So I just have my block with zero reduction factor or a reduction factor of essentially 1. And I've drawn in some lines right here and here, and this is where I want to do my style lines. So this is going to be the gray knit fabric, lace, lace, gray knit fabric. At first I was thinking that I was going to have to keep the side seam here, but when I overlapped my seam allowances, I saw that I was getting pretty much a straight line. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this in a single piece. So the way to do that is I overlap my seam allowances on top of each other. So you should have an inch overlap if you have you should have a half of an inch overlap if you have 1/4 inch seam allowances. I'm just going to tape that into place. And I'm going to trace over a piece, which is going to be my lace piece, and it's going to extend from this line to this line over here. So it's going to be one continuous piece. And I'm also going to connect a straight line from this point to this point because I'm going to be using the scalloped edges of my lace. So I just need one straight line there. Okay, so this is going to be my lace side panel here. I'm going to need to add seam allowances on both of these sides because this is where it's going to be attaching to the gray fabric. So I'm going to add 1/4 inch over here. And 1/4 inch over here. And then let's see, the waistline is going to be covered in fold over elastic, so I don't need any seam allowance there. And then this is going to just be the scalloped edge of the lace. So that's going to be the lace piece, and obviously I have this going really, really tall because I have lace that's really wide. If you have a lace that isn't very wide, You could always do something like this where you do a much more dramatic style line like that, and then the lace doesn't have to be. So that's going to be my lace piece, and then I just need to figure out my two gray pieces that are going to be in this. So the gray pieces are really easy. It's just going to be this, and I need to add seam allowance. So I'm just going to add seam allowance right on here and then cut it apart. So here's the seam line, and I need to add seam allowance to the outside of the seam line. So I'm just going to add my 1/4 inch there. This is going to be that's going to be the front of my panty, and then same thing on the back over here. I'm just going to add a 1/4 inch out on that one. And that's going to be my back. And I do like to always mark where my waist is, just so I can keep things organized. So I'm just going to cut out this large one in lace, and then my front and back out in my gray fabric, as well as my gusset. So I'm not making any changes to the gusset at all. I'm just using it just the way it is drafted in this block with no reductant factor. So I'm going to go ahead and cut that out and come back to you. So everything's cut out. You'll see my dye job on this gray fabric is pretty uneven, but I kind of decided to leave it like that. I liked how it looked like storm clouds almost. But so here's all the pieces, and we can sort of like build it out. So if we get, this is our back piece, and then on either side of the back piece you'll have lace that gets sewn on. So like there, and like so. And then on the front, we can center the front down there, and this lace will wrap around and connect to the front like so. Oops. So we'll have the scallop edge along the leg line here, and then the top is going to be finished with fold over elastic. And then of course I have my two gusset pieces cut out of the gray fabric as well. So I think what I'm going to do is attach all of the gray portions together first, the back with the gusset in the front, and then I'm going to finish this leg hole edge with fold over elastic now before I add it to the lace. That way the edge is a little bit neater finish when we add it to the lace. So I'm just going to sew these 3 sections together. Okay, so I now have my back, my gusset, and my front sewn together, as well as the leg hole edge finished in fold over elastic. So now I can start adding my lace in. So I have the right side of my fabric, and then I want to make sure I have the right side of my lace touching. And I'm just going to sew with a 1/4 inch along this straight edge, and that way that fold over elastic is finished a lot nicer than having just a raw edge fold over elastic. I'm going to do that on the 2 back sections and then attach it to the front sections. Okay, so obviously now it's really starting to look like underwear. I'm really happy that I did the fold over elastic before attaching the lace, because I think it really helps to give that a much nicer finish than if I just like dead ended the fold over elastic there. I think that looks a lot nicer. So of course the last step is just going to be fold over elastic around the waist, and then the panties are done. So I'm really happy how this turned out. Hoping it's a little bit easier to tell why I went with a block that had all of the reduction factor taken out, because you can see the only part that stretches in the back is that short little, let's see, what is that, like 3-inch space, and then on the front, this is the only section that stretches. The rest of these are pretty solidly in there. So really happy how these turned out, and I think they look very similar to the inspiration picture. So now I can go ahead and hop on the bra. So I got all of my bra pieces cut out. I went back and forth over which pattern I wanted to use for this, and ultimately I decided to stick with the Harriet, which is what the original inspiration bra was sewn in. I was thinking I might do the Marlboro bra, but I've sewn a couple of those already this month, so I kind of wanted to change it up a little bit. So I got all my pieces cut out, and now I'm just going to get to sewing. I have a tutorial for the Harriet bra already on my channel, and I can link it up in the iCards above here if you guys are interested in learning how to do it more in depth. But obviously this is just a project log, so I'm going to zip right through it, stopping along at certain points. So I think I'll start with sewing the cups. So first decision I have to make is the thread. So all of these gray pieces are micro duoplex, which I find very difficult to sew with. In order to get nice pretty stitches, I have to use a so fine thread. It's a little bit thinner of a thread, and then I also use a smaller needle, so I use a Microtex 8012 when I'm working with these micro duoplex fabrics. So I don't have any dark gray so fine thread, so I think what I'm going to do is this contrasting green thread. So I'm hoping that it looks okay, that my stitches are pretty enough, because obviously it's going to be pretty visible on this gray fabric to have a contrasting thread. But I think that makes more sense than trying to pick like a light gray or a black, which is going to stick out as well. This at least ties in with the uppercut piece. So fine thread with contrasting green. So making quite a lot of progress. Obviously I've done the cups and the bridge here, and I just need to combine them together. It's been several years since I've sewn a Harriet bra, at least a year, and it's going together pretty fast. So I'm pleasantly surprised with that. I actually really like the contrast stitching I have on the cups. It's a nice little happy accident. I think it looks really cool and adds that sort of like sporty, I don't know, I just really like it. So now of course I gotta drop the cups into the frame, and then it's just elastics. So I've sewn the bottom banding completely, and I was just getting ready to top stitch in the underwire channeling, but I kind of need to decide what I'm going to do for the underarm elastic. So originally I was thinking that I would just do the same picot as I have on the bottom edge, this gray picot, but since I really adore this sort of green accent, my other sort of option is to put this green fold over elastic on the underarm edge here, so that way I pull in a little bit more green color. And I just keep going back and forth, and I'm not quite sure what it is I should do. I think the original went with green. I mean, the original bra had gray along these edges, but I don't know. I'm gonna have to sit here and think about it a little while, and then when I come back you'll see which one I've chosen. So here we have the finished bra. I am really happy with how it turned out. Obviously, I decided to go with the gray along the underarm edge. I figure I can always dye some more of this silver gray fabric if I wanted to do another bra with the green accent. So yep, this is finished bra. Really excited with how it looks. I think it looks perfect. I think it looks just like the inspiration. And then when I pair the bra with the underpants, I think it is a really nice coordinating set, and I think it very much invokes that same sort of feeling as the inspiration. I hope you guys have enjoyed this project log and sort of like coming along with me on my thought processes as I work out how to recreate this inspired bra set. I'll see everyone next time. Take care.